Hey
Oh,
everybody, welcome to Dynamite After Dark here on LOP Radio and also on Kingdom of Honor's LOP YouTube channel. Um, and we are talking about, last week we kind of debated like what episode of Dynamite was this, and I did look up like right before I programmed it tonight, and there was 29 Wednesdays left of the year, which means that this must have been the 23rd episode tonight. So
nope, tonight was the 24th. I counted it yesterday to make sure.
that's hilarious. So
I,
so when I asked that, they probably were counting today as one of the 24 then.
it must have been, yeah, because I counted last week was 23, this week is 24. So,
Well, I will have to edit the title of the show then, shan't I?
or that one can be behind this time. Last week, the other one was behind. So,
Didn't I call 23 last week?
yep, last week you put 23, I put 22.
So I had it right last week, and now
Yep.
I fucked it up for this week.
Yeah,
So
because when I was setting it
yeah,
up for Patreon,
you make me doubt myself, my friend.
when I was setting it up for Patreon last night, I actually counted the weeks, and last week was 23.
That's funny. So I thought I had it right all along, but
Well, of course, because I miscounted the watch along we did. That's where I lost or miscounted.
gotcha. Um, I really liked this show until the
Main
John
event.
Moxley stuff with Brian Cage. And then everything after that, it just kind of fell apart for me.
I
I
thr
really, I really don't think that. I mean, I understand why they did it. I'm sure there's people out there that feel differently than I do that really wanted to be sold on that match. But I already told you last week that that's like the world title match I've been looking forward to the most, since Wrestle Kingdom. So I really didn't need any physicality between the two of them going in, before the night of the show.
yeah, and not as physical as it was. We already know it's going to be a physical match. It's John Moxley. And anybody that's ever watched The Machine going all the way back to Lucha Underground knows that we're going to get a physical match out of him. So I don't think they needed to have the kind of brawl that they had tonight.
No, not at all.
Maybe
I think Taz coming out there and having verbal altercation with Moxley would have been fine.
or even Cage knocking him out. Coming
And
up from behind and knocking him out.
and even if they feel like they needed to do something like this, they're doing it 3 weeks before the show. Really?
Right. Yeah, and I
Where's
mean that's
how is
another
there
thing.
going to be? Then that means there's going to be more escalation between the two of them, which kind of sucks.
Well, I got three takeaways tonight that I want to talk about, and then we can talk about it. I just want to say them before I forget. Number one, I love this Matt Hardy. I don't know why nobody ever thought of mixing all the gimmicks together like this before. I love the fact that he switches gimmicks on a dime. He gets all three of his WWE gimmicks in. He gets the broken gimmick, and then he has a version of himself. And I love how he just kind of flips back and forth.
Me too, because that's actually how multiple personalities work.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. My wife, is really into like reality TV type stuff, and there's a show on Hulu that actually features like a lady that has like 9 different personalities, and that's how it goes. Like, I mean, she really can't even force herself to change personalities. It just happens on a dime like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know why, TNA, even WWE, when they had the chance, I don't know why nobody thought of doing this until now. But I'm so glad that we're getting this version of Matt Hardy now because I absolutely love it.
Well, I think Matt had a lot of creative control over it when he was in TNA. So it may have been something that was like festering in his mind that he was like, well, it's not time to do that yet. I mean, really, I think really the deal is that he needed to have broken Matt Hardy fully formed as a
Before he
character
could,
before he could do something like
I
this.
suppose, and then he left before he had a chance to really, form it. The other thing,
Remember, he did say in interviews, that he had ideas for expanding how the Broken Universe is going to work before TNA screwed them over. So,
oh, and I suppose, and yeah, and they tried to hold um, the copyright for it and everything too.
well, they tried to take what was it, 25% of Matt and Jeff's merch sales from any place they worked.
Okay,
That was the big thing that was the big thing that they did that the Hardys were like, we're not signing this. Are you out of your mind?
right.
You know.
I think it's gold right now. It might be one of my favorite gimmicks in wrestling right now is the multiple personality Matt. I absolutely love it. Absolutely
Yeah.
love it. The other thing that one of the other takeaways I had here tonight is with Fighter Fest being a two-night show and Cody claiming to cut this pace that's never been cut before, blah blah blah. Um, if he doesn't defend the show or defend the title on both nights, it's all a moot point. Because his deal was it's an open challenge and he'll be out there on every single Dynamite. Well, Fighter Fest is a two-night show that's airing on back-to-back Dynamites. So he should be out there on both Dynamites defending the title, or on both nights of Fighter Fest defending the title.
Well, I don't think there's any argument that Cody is the ugliest TNT champion of all time. Um, but
Are
to
we really going to do that again?
but tonight, it really I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, it really kind of you know what this reminds me of now after tonight's match, where he decided he was going to imitate Kurt Angle at the end of it. Um, it reminds me of, and actually the interview Cody had before the match, talking about how he has to prove himself.
Right.
This reminds me of 2016 John Cena with the U.S. title, where he was going out there and having
The open challenge
the
and
open
the
challenge, but with indie wrestling style matches, and proving that he could actually go in the ring and not just wrestle, the five moves of doom type of matches.
hey, I'm
And
gonna
and, and,
give
and and you know what? I really don't need Cody trying to prove that he's already loved by the fan base. He's already got a lot of people behind him. He doesn't need to do this kind of bullshit. And
you know
and he,
what?
and the tin, and that's a silver and red piece of tin that means absolutely jack shit as far as I'm concerned.
I know that we've been
So
tough
so
on
fu- so
Cody.
fuck it.
I know that
So
we've been tough on Cody, and it's I'm not gonna back away from that. I still think he's a heel in face clothing, but I'm going to give Cody credit tonight. We did not see the same match we've seen every other week, which has been something he's been really, um, I've really been down on him lately about is wrestling the same match every time, and we didn't see that same match this week.
I what
I
I what
will
I'd
give
really
him credit for that.
what I'd really like to give him credit for is going in each week and facing off against a young talent and putting them and giving them a chance to get over by even though he goes over them getting over.
Right,
But and which I would have done if they weren't setting up him against Jake Hager for Fighter Fest.
for 3 weeks from now, he still has two or three, two defenses to have between then now and then.
Yes, but the one that they're building for the future, the big match they're building, is
Right.
not against a young up and coming talent. It's against Jake Hager.
Well, and it's not, and it's, it's classic wrestling. They're not going to have that switcheroo where somebody beats Cody in the next 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden there's a new opponent against Jake. That's just not going to happen. So
No.
it kind of dulls down the amount of, he should have given him the title shot next week.
And it also just kind of like rolls into what you said last week, that if they're going to do an open challenge, do an open challenge. Don't do
Yeah.
this thing where they're announcing matches in advance for that championship.
Right, exactly. It's got to be a true open challenge if that's what you're going to call it. Whoever comes out first, that's who gets the title shot. And the third takeaway I had here is we've seen now 5 different versions of Matt Hardy. What's one version we didn't see? We have not seen his Ring of Honor version yet. And with the way he's forming young talents, trying to convince Sammy to come and join him, getting behind Private Party, are we looking at a possible AEW version of the Kingdom from Ring of Honor, the original Kingdom?
I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting point. Honestly, I think they have enough stables as it is, so I really don't need to see another stable right now.
I do.
But
I think they do too, but I think most of the stables are just three-man groups. There's not really, I mean, technically there's only 2 stables. I don't even view the Elite as a stable anymore because you've got the Bucks cutting another heel promo. You've got this discontent with Paige. It seems like Kenny's the only one that's still part of the Elite. The rest of them are just kind of doing their own thing. So
so
I don't
after
even
arguing,
look at
so after
the
arguing with me, so after you and I had an argument lasting almost the entire show a year ago that a stable has to be more than three people. Now you're saying a stable is more than three people.
Oh no, no, the reason
Because when I said there's enough stables, you said, nah, I see it more as three-man groups.
well, yeah, because it's more like tag teams. I mean, I had to argue that point because two of my favorite all-time stables were only three-person stables. The Beautiful People from Impact and
And Legacy,
Legacy.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those were only three-man stables. So I'm still gonna call a three-man stable a stable, but ultimately, you're right. A stable has to be more than three people. Otherwise, it's just a
The
tag
beautiful
team.
people had zero men in it.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I said person.
No, you didn't. You did not say
I
person.
started to say man and then I stopped and said person. When I thought about the beautiful people, I said stopped and said person.
Sure, you did.
And technically,
Um,
the original Heart Foundation was only two members and a manager.
yeah, they weren't considered a stable at that time either. Actually, you know what? There was actually a Saturday Night's Main Event, or maybe it was on Survivor Series, but one of the two, Honky Tonk Man referred to the entire Jimmy Hart family as the Hart Foundation. Like he said, he was a part of the Hart Foundation.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, if Honky Tonk Man was part of the Hart Foundation, I put that as another proof positive they were the greatest stable of all time.
Right.
Because that means they had one of the greatest tag team champions of all time, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, one of the greatest world champions of all time, and he was also Intercontinental champion. They had, and then they had the longest reigning Intercontinental champion of all time. So if he's part of the Hart Foundation, tell me who's better than the Hart Foundation, other than maybe NWO. So
Even that, I wouldn't say. I mean, it would depend on which version of the NWO you're looking at, but with all of the jobbers, I mean, the NWA B team, for Christ's sake, even had their own music. They didn't have the original NWO black and white music. They had their own because they were considered the B team.
that's right, they did, didn't they?
So I Heart Foundation easily has to be the best of all time when you look at it that way. If you include Honky Tonk Man, since he declared himself part of it. But anyway, and then but I thought about that today, and I thought that would be a really, really cool idea for them to do that. It kind of looks like that's what they're doing with Matt Hardy kind of trying to get behind some of the young up and coming talent with Private Party and then his speech with Sammy tonight.
I really do like him being in that mentor role. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, I think he's got a lot more value than just being an in ring. Not, I mean, he's still an outstanding in ring talent. Don't get me wrong.
right.
Um,
No matter
and
what version of him comes out.
and you know what? After I don't know if I've ever told you this before, Jeff, I once thought that Jeff Hardy was gonna be like the next Shawn Michaels.
See, I
Um,
never thought that. I
and
never saw that in
and
Jeff.
and then I was one of my columns in on LOP. I wrote an X 100 based on like the PWI 500,
Okay.
and about Jeff Hardy I put in there. I once believed Jeff Hardy was going to be the next Shawn Michaels. I also once believed in Santa Claus. Um, I think Matt Hardy has since become a better wrestler than his brother
I think
has
Matt
as a singles performer. A more intelligent
I
performer.
think
So.
Matt and Jeff remind me a lot of the American Wolves, where you had the kind of underlooked wrestler who was really great at what he did, could have a decent character and everything, but was kind of overshadowed by the really charismatic guy. And that's Davey Richards is the Matt Hardy and Eddie Edwards is the Jeff Hardy of that equation. I never looked at Jeff as being the better of the two wrestlers. He was just the one that really connected with fans because of all of his craziness and stunts and everything.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You know, I don't think you can look at the Hardys and say either one of them was the Genetti of the team.
No,
So
not at all. Not at all.
they both been hugely successful just in different ways. Um, and Matt's even come out and said, Jeff did all the things I told him to do. I was the one that was creating everything that Jeff ever did. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really do like this version. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me, and now I lost it. Um, I kind of want to analyze the prospect of a heel Colt Cabana. Or are they going to end up doing a kind of like Daniel Bryan when he joined the Wyatt family? Joins them, then tries to break them up from the inside type thing.
I hope not. I'm much more interested in a heel version of Colt Cabana as like the number, as probably like the number, like the first lieutenant of Brody
Of the
Lee
Dark Order.
than I am of him being like the inside man trying to take him down from the inside.
I'm really because I don't think I've ever seen a heel Colt Cabana, and I'm really interested to see how his wrestling style works as a heel. How he can adapt his style to work as a heel.
I think it'd be great because I could see him like doing the Superman print and like doing a push up at the same time and just like gloating about it, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think Colt Cabana is a lot like Ricky Steamboat that he's been a babyface his entire career, as far as I'm aware. So
well, he was as a heel briefly with the Second City Saints, briefly.
okay,
But he's been a heel as long as I can remember.
face.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, a face. And his in-ring antics and his interview style, everything is like that bleeding heart comedy face. So to translate to a heel stable is something I'm really interested in seeing.
Me too. I hope they actually do it because I mean they already teased it once with Christopher Daniels, so I hope they're not just teasing it over again.
I like it more than the thought of Christopher Daniels because I've seen Christopher as a heel so many times that I'm almost sick of it. But to have Colt Cabana, who I've never seen really as a heel, would be amazing. Absolutely amazing to see how they pull that off.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like when we watch AEW, we don't say if they can pull it off, we say when they how they pull
Right,
it.
right, exactly. So you look at those things, and then on top of those takeaways that I got today, I mean, the matches themselves were great. FTR showed that they belong in the conversation. Then we got our standard heel promo from the Bucks again. Um, he was talking about how much better they are than everybody else. And then, so that match I absolutely loved. I thought that was a great match.
Yeah, it was really good. I was a little bit surprised to see them use the Spike Pile drivers of the Shatter Machine.
Well, what did
Um,
they call
but
the Shatter Machine? The new name for it? Good Night Irene or something like that? Good Night
did they
Sweetheart.
did they have a new did they have a new name for it? I didn't even know they had a new name for it.
Yeah, they kind of hit it in a weird sort of way. It wasn't their normal Shatter Machine, but it was definitely the Shatter Machine. And they called it Good Night Sweetheart, or yeah, Good Night Sweetheart.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
It
But
was
then,
right
but then,
before
but
the Spike Pile Driver, literally
oh,
right
okay,
before it.
okay. I see.
And they didn't get the pin out of it. It got broken up by Butcher.
Okay. That makes sense then. Um, yeah, I really did enjoy that match, and I thought I thought it was a great showing for Butcher and Blade too. I
Yeah,
mean
it was.
it looked I think that one of the great things about FTR is that they're so adept at making their opponents look good. And it's not like Butcher and Blade have looked terrible since they've been there. They've looked good in a lot of their matches, but I think this is their best match so far with FTR in there. And in a lot of ways, I think they were mirror images of each other out there, which I thought was really awesome.
Yeah, it was nice seeing a tag match with two old school teams or two teams doing the same old school style.
Right.
We don't
Exactly.
see anything like that very often anymore. The other thing that one thing I did notice about that is when Jericho had called uh, he had said at the beginning that it's nice to see two journeyman teams or two journeyman guys get a name for themselves here on a national stage.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, FTR, they spent the last 7 years in WWE. They've been on a national stage,
Yeah.
arguably a bigger
Yeah.
one than where they're at now.
Yeah. Actually, both the guys that were in there had gotten major pushes in national promotions before,
Right,
because the other guy, had that huge push in TNA that just never panned out for him.
right. Yeah,
But
it made me laugh when he said that.
Yeah, it just it kind of piqued my interest, and I kind of smiled at that too. Yeah, and it was actually kind of fun to see both teams playing the heel a bit here too, and there really wasn't like a clear cut face team here, so it was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, especially when Dax pulled the trunks right away at the beginning and then grabbed the ankle of Butcher on off the side of the apron, and I like how they pointed out the fact that they were using the tag ropes, and I never even thought about that, but it's been so long since I've actually seen somebody, probably since man the 80s, since I've seen somebody standing there with both arms in the air holding the tag rope.
Yeah, I guess I just don't think it's not something I pay attention to, so I guess I really don't know. But I mean,
I
it's not something but it's also not something they really call attention to very often either.
Well, it stuck out to me when I was watching him do it. I was like, God, I haven't seen that forever. And then Jericho announced it or called attention to it. So I thought it was an interesting thing there too that was something I hadn't seen before or haven't seen in a very long time.
Oh, you know what? JR did not bother me much tonight, but one thing that did bother me,
Jericho
the
talking.
no, the one thing that Ross did say that bothered the hell out of me was when he said that Mark Quinn's office was ad-libbable.
His what?
He said his offense was ad-libbable.
Ad-livable?
Ad-libbable.
Ad-libbable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they all had kind of some awkward moments this week. One thing that I did really like was Tony Schiavone doing the com or the reporter work. I can't think of the name of it, but when he was going to interview Billy Gunn and then MJF came out
Hmm.
and cut his spiel, told him to stand there and be a good little mic stand. And then while
Yep.
MJF was talking, did you see Tony mocking him?
I didn't because I was actually feeding my dogs at the time.
Oh my God, that was classic. He was while MJF was talking, Tony was kind of off mic, just mouthing the same words in an angry look on his face. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed it.
I also love when Jericho said, what did he say to Excalibur? How do you say cannonball or do you want to do you notice
How to
how to
sp
say yeah, do you notice cannonball in Spanish, Excalibur? And he goes, no, enlighten me. He goes, I don't know.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I don't know either. That made me laugh too. Jericho had a couple of
Uh,
good one-liners. He was a little obnoxious during the first match. I think he was a little too pumped up,
yeah,
but he had a lot of good one-liners in this
and
one again.
then when Excalibur also like when they were talking about the upcoming, they were when they were introducing the Chelsea Baker vignette. Excalibur just kind of put his head down, put his head on his forehead, and just shook his head before going.
I really love the Britt Baker stuff. I didn't really get too much behind the Darby Allin one this week. I liked it more when he was kind of the silent guy. I don't know what the point of watching him fail to do a skateboard trick so many times was. I guess this week's
I think it's just that he's perseveres and he keeps going till he gets it right or something. I don't know.
yeah, this one just didn't resonate with me like the other ones have.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't have the same effect that some of the other promos he's had it did have had. This one was just kind of like, I don't get it.
I said earlier, and I really mean this, that the TNT Championship is to me, as far as I'm concerned, just a red and silver piece of tin that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But if it ever is going to mean anything, then the guy that has to beat Cody for that title to me is Darby Allin.
You think so?
I do. I think that he's already lost 3 times to Cody. I think that Cody building it up and he's making stars with it. I think Darby coming out of it and being made a star again in an outstanding match against Cody, but then finally getting that victory, getting that monkey off his back would make the title me have to have him go over a bigger name in the history of the business. That's go pretty well.
Or even a match with Gunn and Wardlow and maybe MJF putting over I can't remember his kid's name. Is it Lance? Lance Gunn?
Austin.
Austin Gunn. You know, having a good match against Austin Gunn wouldn't be a bad idea either.
No, I I was just thinking as I was saying that yeah, Gunn looks like he's in great shape, but also we saw him 3 years ago take on championship, and that wasn't that
That
good of a
no,
match.
it really wasn't. But
It was pretty brutal. But I think
you
MJF is a different
also
type of wrestler where Gunn will not be trying. It won't be like one of those. They won't be trying to go for an epic contest like he and Tanahashi were going
you
for.
also have Tanahashi, who is kind of a um, color by numbers wrestler. I mean, he's done great things for NJPW. I'll never deny that. But to me, he's always been that kind of script, color by number. This is um, his platform and the way he runs a match type of thing. And I don't see that out of Billy Gunn. But when I do see Tanahashi have great matches, it's usually against somebody who's a fantastic worker that can tell a similar story to him. And as much as I've loved Billy Gunn's character and his strength and his in-ring work, he's never been a fantastic in-ring storyteller.
Okay, now you're putting me in a position where I have to defend Hiroshi Tanahashi. That just pissed me off because you rave about how great Ric Flair was, and that's what Ric Flair did. Every goddamn match was the same.
You got to realize
Um,
Ric Flair was my childhood, so
what
and
what Ta-
Tanahashi, I've been an adult.
when Tanahashi
You're
does
not
that,
wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not going to disagree with you. You're not wrong. Ric Flair was the same. And looking back at Ric Flair now as an adult, I see it. But Ric Flair always has that soft spot in my heart because he was my first love as a wrestling fan.
where Tanahashi is better in that way is that he uses it to set up other things in other matches. I mean, yes, he usually has a style where he is going to be hitting those dragon screw leg whips, and he's going to be going for leg holds and the Texas cloverleaf. But then when he sets that up so well, and he has these fantastic 5-star plus matches where he's inverting that, and he's going against the grain, is why he is so brilliant.
Yeah, I just from what I've seen is I've seen him have real stinker matches and then great matches, and it seems like all of his great matches are against really, really great workers that complement his style. I haven't seen him have a really, really great match against a guy like Billy Gunn.
No, but they only had that one chance to work in where they worked two completely different styles too.
Right.
So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tanahashi over Flair any day of the week. So,
And as an adult now, looking back at Flair, I can see the comparison. Flair to me has that special spot and always gets a little bit of more love because he was my first love.
yeah, I guess it was kind of top of mind to me too because I uh, I was working this morning, and all of a sudden I get a text out of nowhere from my friend that said, "What's your take on Ric Flair?" So,
That's funny.
and then he said that, and then I mentioned about how Flair had the same match over and over. And he goes, "Yeah, but he was a great promo." And I said, "Yeah, but Arn was better." So,
Well, yeah, he was a great promo. He was the leader of the Horsemen and delivered a great promo. But yeah, Arn's promo work was so much better. It really was. Arn was much better at cutting promos. And I was thinking about that. Shameless plug for next week, but we're gonna do well, not next week, I guess the week after, but we're gonna do the Desert Island series with Randy Savage, and I was thinking about it today, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when we do it too. But Savage combined the best of both worlds. When you look at the promos around that time, you had the people that were yelling, you had the Ric Flairs, you had the Hogans, you had all that. Then you had the people that talked softly and just kind of went with the flow or whatever with Jake Roberts and Arn Anderson. And then you had Randy Savage, who cut a promo like nobody else could because he combined both styles and did it flawlessly.
yeah, Mean Gene, we're talking about Hulk Hogan. Well, Hulk Hogan. And he
Right.
would he would go up and down. Yeah, he modulated his voice, which a lot of pro wrestlers don't know how to
Which
do.
no
So,
pro wrestlers, especially during that time, when you look at the promo work that time, you got one or the other. You got either Ric Flair or you got Arn Anderson. There was no in between. And Savage had this just insane ability to combine the two of them and make it work.
hmm I totally agree with that.
It's, and I said this off air, last week, and I'm sure I'll say it again, but I mean, to me, I call Jericho, I call AJ Styles the GOAT. Those are the two greatest wrestlers. Flair is up there for me. These are the greatest, wrestlers of all time. When I look at them, their in-ring work, their ability to adapt, everything about them makes them the overall greatest wrestlers. But my all-time favorite wrestler is Randy Savage.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that at all. Um, Speaking of Flair, the other thing I said today, and I actually tweeted it out the other day too, is his daughter is the most overrated professional wrestler of all time. Not women's wrestler, but wrestler.
I'm not going to disagree.
So,
I think out of
and you
the,
know and you know and when I say that, I know I'm going to get a lot of haters, but Charlotte Flair is a good wrestler, but she's not a great wrestler, and she's certainly not the best woman of all time, like a lot of people say she is.
and I
So
think
that's why I
honestly,
think that that's why I think she's so goddamn overrated.
out of the four horsewomen, I think she was the third best of the four. I still will put Sasha and Becky Lynch above her any day of the week.
I'd probably put Bailey above her too.
I don't know if I'd put Bailey above her, but I'd definitely put Sasha and Becky Lynch above her.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm not even that big of a Bailey fan, but I just don't know. I mean, I would say that even though Bailey's not better, than she's on the same level as her.
Oh, I'll give her the
So
same level. I'll give her. I won't say she's better because I've seen Bailey have some stinkers, and I don't know that Bailey has ever really grasped. Well, I guess during her heel run lately she has, but up until this, I don't know that she ever really grasped her character. And I think as far as just overall, both Becky and Sasha in my mind are better than Charlotte.
yeah, I agree, and I'll take Alexa Bliss over any of them except for Becky. So
You'll take who?
Alexa Bliss over any of them except
I
for Becky.
I'll take Alexa Bliss over everybody. I don't even care. You can throw anybody at me. Maybe Rebel. This new Rebel on AEW.
I meant as an overall professional
Oh,
wrestler.
oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you could do so many things with. Oh, speaking of that, did you know? Did you see how flexible Penelope Ford was on that fisherman suplex?
Yes, what the hell?
She was like a contortionist. Her feet were almost touching her head on that.
Right? I saw that too, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. And that brings me to another thing too. Sammy Guevara, when he got I don't know what the move was that Colt did to
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I know you're in love with Sammy Guevara, but I didn't know not know it was all the way to the sexual level.
Wait, what?
Well, we were talking about the flexibility of Penelope Ford, and you said, speaking of that, Sammy Guevara.
No, did you see the way that he I don't know that there's a better seller. I mean, people used to rave about Dolph Ziggler and how well he sold. I think Sammy's on that same level. The way that he sold that whatever hit that I can't remember what the hit was, but the way it buckled Sammy and he like just fell over with his knees bent behind him.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
And the you look back at the super kick from Matt Jackson and just the way that he sells in the ring, I think he's one of the better sellers in the business right now.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I mean, I think he's absolutely um, proving himself every single week as being one of the best up and coming talents in the professional wrestling business.
Oh, absolutely. And he's improving on, I mean, he was good on the mic, but he's getting better. His comedy is starting to get on the level of a young Chris Jericho, and he performs in the ring.
Yeah, and he has the creativity of a young Chris Jericho too. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, I think the tendency has always has been from what people we've seen to say, oh, he reminds me of a young Eddie Guerrero. But I think a lot of that is just because he's Latin. Whereas in my opinion, he does resemble Jericho more in the ring, more in his creativity, more in his promo ability than Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah. I mean,
So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that about 2 months ago.
Eddie is fun, but Eddie never had the Um, all you have to do is look back at Jericho's run as a cruiserweight champion in WCW in what, 98? And that's where I see that's where I see Sammy Guevara is in
Yep.
that run.
Yep.
So, all right, well, I got nothing more to say on this one. I don't know if you
And
do.
and I think that's why you and I, we're so adamant that he should be the first TNT champion, because I think that he would have been so great in that role the way Jericho was with the cruiserweight strap.
Yeah, and
You know.
I think he'll get there. I think he needs to get there soon. Uh, I wouldn't mind depending on what they're doing with Matt Hardy. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a AEW version of the Kingdom. Um, I think Guevara and Private Party would fit well with that, and they would just need that fourth. And then, Matt Hardy as the mentor.
Yeah, what I like about what I really like about that is it shows a little bit of progression too. Because and I don't know if people take this the wrong way or not, but where he's kind of almost like an affirmative action type thing, where he's helping some guys that 20 years ago probably wouldn't have been getting these opportunity. Um, you know, minorities that are so talented going out there and just rising up. So
Well, yeah, we said it last night about the Islanders.
yeah,
If the Islanders were wrestling today, they would be on that upper level, but because they were wrestling in the 80s, they never really got above. I think they held the titles once, but they never got to that top tier of tag teams level.
yeah, and another example of that is look at JYD. I mean, not that
Yep.
JYD was a great wrestler, but he was certainly as good as Jim Duggan, and he never got the pub that Jim Duggan got.
And he had
You
more
know,
charisma than Jim Duggan.
absolutely.
Well,
He just didn't have the damn two by four.
no, but he had a dog collar and he crawled along on all fours and ate dog bones in the middle of the ring. So there was that.
Yeah, that's almost the same.
But you're right, he didn't have an American flag on a 2x4, so I get it. I see it now.
Fucking Duggan.
Hey, whenever I think of Duggan now, and I can't get past this. Ever since he did that little stint in WCW where he was the janitor, that's the only image, no matter what I see of Jim Duggan, and I've seen him in some brutal matches. I think it was WCCW before he joined WWF. Where he was actually a really good wrestler, and kind of like Ted DiBiase, they had um, these gimmicks going that were great, and then they come to WWF and get thrown into things that just weren't that great. Or I actually more I'm thinking about the Bushwhackers. Um, but the only image I have of Duggan now when I actually look at him and think about him is when he was a janitor in WCW.
Um, the two biggest things about Jim Duggan to me that I remember and that I kind of hate him for is he won the first Royal Rumble
I don't care he was a janitor.
and he beat Steve Austin in like 38 seconds for the U.S.
Don't
title.
don't care he was a janitor. I don't care about any of it. He was a janitor.
I know. I'm just saying. That's why those are things I despise him for. So
Makes
that's all.
sense. It definitely makes sense. It makes sense. But so I got nothing
Hey,
else on this one.
and going out and saying things to Nikolai Volkov like you can't sing the Russian national anthem. And this is the land of the free.
I forgot about that. I remember being a 14-year-old kid going, "What? That doesn't make sense, Jim."
It's the land of the free, so you can't do what you want.
I, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. So, you guys, if you're listening to us on YouTube, we're on two different channels. Just a favor, go like them both, subscribe to them both, ring the notification bell for both of them. We actually do this on our personal channel, well, on both channels twice a week with Kingdom of Honor on Tuesdays and then Dynamite After Dark on Wednesdays. And then on our personal channel, we take a look at pop culture, try to do it as often as possible, but at least once a month. And then,
And this past Monday we did this. Jeff made me watch this movie on Netflix called The Last Days of American Crime. So we
guys, go
watched
listen
that.
to it and
Uh,
find out what kind of a liar he is. Shane made me watch the worst movie I have seen in 10 years. And we reviewed it, so there's that. So you can go get our take on that too. But that's on our YouTube channel. It's the Last Days of American Crime. We did it just this last Monday, and also on our Patreon. I put them up last night. A brand new look at another Ring of Honor pay-per-view. This time, probably one of the best put together pay-per-views I've ever seen. In 2011 Final Battle, you got a great look at Kevin Steen and what's to come in the next year, and some other just really good stuff there. So head over to our Patreon too. It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. Small donation lets you into our archives. Donations really help us out to keep this thing going, and it also you get some good content. You get content, basically every show Shane and I have ever done, all the way back to, 2014 when we started doing this.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of content on there, a lot of content. And for $5 a month, you can get those archives. If you want to help us out even more and go up to $10 a month to the high tier, you get these exclusive shows that we do, which is not only I put everything that we do on YouTube, so the pop culture stuff is on there. Also, we have exclusive wrestling shows on there as well. Like I said, last week we did well, no, not last week. On Monday, we did the Ring of Honor show. In 2 weeks, we're going to take a look at the career of Randy Savage, which is something that we actually do from time to time. We call it our Desert Island series, and basically what it is Shane and I go through and we pick out 4 matches that if we were stranded on a desert island, we would want with us to watch for all time. We've done 5 of them. I don't know if it's 4 or 5. I can never remember. I think it was 4 we've done so far, and we're about to do our 5th with Randy Savage on what 2 weeks from Monday, from last
Yes,
Monday.
yes.
And the ones we've done before is we did a look back at Chris Benoit, we did a look back at Eddie Guerrero, we did one with our Rob Van Dam, and then one with Harley Race. So that's over at our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. And then Twitter. My handle is at Regi Co-op. He is at Zanman LOP. Use hashtag KOH and hashtag DAD. That helps us find you and helps you find us.
And you mentioned the Harley Race one again. Just reminds me that if you go on the YouTube channel for the NWA, they have that amazing match between Harley Race and Terry Funk on there.
Yeah, I saw that today.
It's
Yeah.
it's like I think it's like a 50-minute match. So take grab a couple pieces of pizza, grab a glass of Coke or whiskey or whatever, and just sit back and treat yourself to that because it really was a phenomenal match of two masters just going at it.
And at
Um,
that time, Harley was at his best, his absolute best. He was a heel. He was a better heel than I think most heels are today.
and this was a Terry Funk that was a technical master, not the hardcore guy you'd see 20 years later.
Yeah, no
So
chainsaw Charlie out of him.
um, next week on tomorrow night is MCLP Radio Adventure, where I'm sure he'll be talking about this past week's takeover, maybe the return of New Japan. Who knows? And I don't know if you saw, Jeff, they're not announcing the card for the June 15th show until right at bell time. So
You do
um,
realize that
so they're basically
Imp
so
is
they're basically
taking this as a personal birthday gift from NJPW. The fact that they're coming back on his birthday,
I'm sure he is.
so he's
And
made it known that that's a personal gift to him.
But I think it's really cool that they're treating it like a New Year's Dash type situation, like for resetting what they were doing for the year. So, um, and then on and this weekend will be WWF The Legacy Series continuing their march through 2018 to I'm sorry to through 1988. Wow, to WrestleMania 4. And then next week on Tuesday with Dynamite with Kingdom of Honor, we will be talking about the first ever Ring of Honor show, the an era of honor begins from I can't remember the date, but 2002 with the main event of Low Key versus Christopher Daniels versus Brian Danielson.
I'm
So
really excited to watch this.
yeah, and also one of Eddie Guerrero's 4 Ring of Honor appearances as he takes on Super Crazy. So um, fun stuff. Um, that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye. If you ever